Hey everybody, this is David, opposing the Matrix. How the heck are you? I'm doing pretty good. Actually, compared to the last few days, I'm doing pretty good today. Praise the Lord. Each day's an adventure. Oh goodness. Well, happy Tuesday to you. If Yeah, I'll get this thing posted today. Um, uh, my wife is a genius. I just got to say that because I've been doing these shows at recording them at 7 o'clock at night, and by the time I'm done, it's 9 or right around there, and uh, then I got to look at it, and then I have to upload it because I'm doing it that way now. So I have to upload it to Rumble, to YouTube, and also to Facebook. The other formats that I have don't allow me to do that, so their loss, I guess. Uh, so anyway, she says, why don't you just do them earlier in the day? And then maybe you can get them posted even before the time that you would normally do a show. Now, because I have this problem with going to sleep. I can't sleep that very well, and I end up staying up till 2 in the morning, and then going to sleep, and then the dog wakes me up at 5, having to go out and stuff, and so it hasn't been working out very well. Anyway, so this is what we're doing. We're going to start doing this in the afternoons, and right now it is. I can fix something. There. Currently, it's like 1:32 in the afternoon on the 3rd of February. Inching ever closer to Valentine's Day. When we remember the St. Valentine's Day massacre, at least if you're Italian and you come from a mob land, you remember it. Anyway, so I'm ready to go. I've got my iced tea in hand, and one thing I just wanted to show you folks is that I like working with wood. I love working with metal, but wood is sometimes easier to work with, so I've been doing that a lot lately. Anyway, we had a madrone tree growing out in the yard, and it was only about that big around, and I said, man, that would sure make something nice. And my son-in-law is in the process of cutting down a lot of the trees on the property anyway, so I figured, one less. So anyway, I cut this thing down, and I cleaned it up really well. However, I didn't allow for it to dry, and when it dried, it cracked. So anyway, this here, I don't know if you can see it. I'll go from the bottom. So you got the bottom, and you go all the way up. It's probably about 4 feet tall. Yeah, maybe about that. Anyway, this is madrone wood, folks. It's excellent. It's beautiful wood. I don't know if you can see the grain very well in it, but it is. It is. I think it's a superb wood, and I found a good agent for where is it? Oh, right here for sealing cracks. That was a really big crack on there. But another unique feature that this wood has, folks, it's got these neat little growth things in it, and they're fun to clean out, sort of. Anyway, uh, this is going to be a key thing, for putting your key rings on. It's going to mount up against the wall. I don't know if you can see it, but I got a flat edge there. Yeah, you can probably see that. Yeah, okay. And so it'll mount up against the wall, and it'll have like a hook here, a hook here, a hook here, a hook here, hook here. So we can hang our keys and not lose our keys, which I do all the time. Freaking embarrassing too, let me tell you. Yeah, you begin to wonder if you're going, generic. I was going to say generic or yeah, geriatric. So anyway, I just wanted to get my other computer turned on here. Okay, so I've been watching this thing in Iran unfold, and it's still have me perplexed as to what Yahweh's timing is with all this too. It's one thing Yahweh is really good at is throwing curveballs when it comes to prophecy, and you know something's going to happen right now, and then you find out no, well he's changed. It hasn't changed his mind, but our perception has changed, I guess, and things aren't what we thought they were going to be. I always saw the Ezekiel 38-39 war was going to be real soon, because of Iran being opposed against Israel, hating Israel. And the Russians aren't too crazy about Israel either, never have been. And Turkey is now, well, it was part of the Ottoman Empire for a while, but after World War II, it became free, and a lot of the nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38, 39 as coming against Israel are located, not nations really, groups of people, sects, I don't know what you would call them. But yeah, they're all located in different parts of what's now Turkey. And of course, there's Libya. Libya has always been anti Israel, especially since the last revolution. And so, anyway, it was like, okay, this is going to happen soon. Well, then all this happens in Iran. You know, Iran's going to be buddying up with us really well, and spurning Russia. So there goes the Gog Magog deal. um, so I don't know. So it might turn out to be a few more decades before any of that stuff comes into fruition. Yeah, I'm looking for the return of Yeshua, and I was kind of like, oh well, this might accentuate things. This might bring things around, you know. But no, I guess not. But anyway, he is coming soon, and that's all I got. That's all I got to trust in, you know, his imminent return. Um, so I do things like the woodwork here, and a few other things I do, and just to keep me busy when I'm not doing radio shows or researching for radio shows, and or working here around the house. I help my wife out, uh, you know, because it's just she and I, and we're responsible for our messes, and I'm not the cleanest person in the world, and I don't want her to have to clean up after me. So anyway, that explains that. So tonight I'm going to talk about some really weird places, uh, and weird. I mean, places where these megaliths, mega meaning large and lith meaning stone. Okay, these large stone edifices are, and I'm not counting everything either, because there's more than we're going to mention here. You know, it's quite interesting, and how these things were made, or who made them, is another thing we have to think about too. Because, for instance, one of these places, I think it's over by Baalbek, and there's a set of stairways there. There's a stairway there that it's the steps are much too high for people, so it would have to be a Nephilim or giants would have to be walking up that step. So anyway, now there are some weird things that are nature inspired. Okay, uh, and some of them are in Oregon. And here, let me the theme of Oregon is keep Portland weird. That's the Portland theme, and but they do their best trying to accomplish that. So, but anyway, Oregon is got its own oddities, and let's see here. This will be it. Okay, odd and physics challenging places around Oregon. Now, there's places like in California. There's Winchester Mystery House, where the woman was nuts, and she made this house that's really hard to understand what some of the hallways and stuff are for. Uh, some of the stairways just go up to nothing, and the whole 9 yards. I've never been to it, but I know just about everybody else I know has been there, and it's a challenge. And so there's places like that, and but some of these places are natural. They're not man-made, and for instance, there's a place called the Oregon Vortex. It's near a town called Gold Hill, and it's famous for its optical illusions and gravitational effects, where objects appear to roll uphill, and people change heights as they walk. It's really bizarre, folks. If you're 6 foot and your wife's 5'4", there's a difference. But when you can stand in an area where she looks taller than you, then that's odd. um, I mean, in an area where it's just flat ground, or it supposedly looks like flat ground, and she's taller than me. And so it's I don't know how to explain that. And so where objects appear to roll uphill, people change height as they walk. There's a place where perception and physics seem to bend against the rules of nature. Yeah, that's true. Doesn't that describe Portland too? Anyway, another place called Compass Mountain, located in the Rogue River Valley. This mountain is known for its mysterious magnetic anomalies, where compasses often go haywire or point in the wrong direction. It's a place where the laws of navigation can be disrupted, by the local magnetic field. So airplanes, I guess, that fly over it have a hard time. Kind of reminds me of the Bermuda Triangle. Some of the descriptions of the Bermuda Triangle. So okay, and then there's those prehistoric gardens tucked between Port Orford and Gold Beach. These painted concrete dinosaur. Okay, so I guess this is man-made. Okay, never mind. Let's see. And then there's a place called the Freaky but True Peculiarium. And guess where it is, folks? Tick tock, tick tock. It's in Portland. Okay. Let's keep Portland weird. Okay. This museum celebrates the weird and wonderful. Sorry. Offering a glimpse into the unusual with exhibits that challenge the ordinary. There's a place down in California in San Francisco. It's in I think it's called Discovery Park, and it's called the Exploratorium, and they have some really neat stuff there. They really do. It's kind of stuff like this, like we're talking about here. I remember we were down there one time, and over there, a singles group of us went over there from a church group, and there are these parabolic mirrors, I guess you would describe them as, or dishes, and you could communicate through them. So if you talked into it, the person that was directly across at the other one could hear you. Well, what we discovered was that the people that walked by, if they were in a certain place, they could hear you too. So we were having a lot of fun. You know, we people were walking by, and so like some guy would walk by, and I go, "Hey, stupid," and he just kind of stop in his tracks and look around, see who was talking to him, and it was a lot of fun. I could have sat there all day doing that. I think we did sit there quite a few hours doing it, but yeah, it's there's a big museum there too, like a natural history museum and stuff. So it's really place. But anyway, these places exist, and they have oddities in them, but most of these oddities that I've talked about are not man-made, or to say the least, but they are nature inspired. I guess they're nature made. And but the things that we're going to talk about tonight or today are definitely made by either mankind or Nephilim or giants, or maybe even fallen angels. Who knows? But so, and you know what? We're getting up in our series here, because this is the second series, and the first series had 10 shows, and the second series has 20. We're on number 14 here, so it's we're getting there. And I got a third series that I'm debating whether I'm going to use it or not, because some of it's rehashing what we've talked about already. But so anyway, so this we're talking about today is ancient megaliths and fallen angel technology. Okay, it's important to remember that first of all, when mankind was created, when Adam and Eve were created, they were created perfect. Okay, they were created with knowledge. They knew things. Okay, they didn't necessarily have a school to go to, but they went to the Yahweh school, so to speak, and he endowed them with these different gifts and memories and stuff like that about how to do things, and I think that's pretty awesome, actually. But mankind, in his own right, because most men or all men were descended from Adam, they inherited his DNA, of course. They inherited his intelligence and other things. And if you follow the genealogy through Genesis, you'll see that you had Cain, and Cain slew Abel. Okay, and Yahweh replaced Abel with Seth. But Cain, when it came to worldly things, was very adept. Some of his children were workers of iron, and they manufactured weapons, and some of them were very adept when it came to music and poetry and things like that. And so, and again, but some of these things also were taught by the fallen angels. Okay, but you have very smart people that were able to pick these things up right away. So it must be realized, it must be enforced that ancient man was not a guy that just came out of his cave and was given all these things to do. He was Adam was born with a high degree of intelligence, and although not smart enough to stay away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but yeah, that's got a whole other dimension to it. So were these massive stones that we're talking about, we're going to talk about, and structures scattered across the globe built by humans alone? Or by humans armed with forbidden knowledge? And if they got that knowledge, where did it come from? Oh, very interesting, I think. Okay, so were the massive stone structures scattered across the globe built by humans alone? Yeah, I'd say 50% of them, maybe, or maybe more. And the ones that were built by humans alone were given that technology or those plans, so to speak, by the fallen angels or what have you. And I think that, especially when you think about Egypt, how many pyramids are there? That it's not hard to imagine that once they got the plans to build one, then they had the plans, they could build others. You could build them bigger, you could build them smaller, you could build them in different shapes and the whole 9 yards. So the technology that was given to the people that lived in Egypt at that time was quite awesome. And don't forget that a lot of this stuff probably came across on the ark too, because you have Japheth, Seth, and no, Ham, Japheth, and Shem. That were all born to Noah. Noah was a very intelligent guy too. I mean, you have to be able to build a ship out in the desert or out in an area where there was no water. But building a ship is not an easy thing to do, and even with the plans, it's a difficult thing. Yeah, he had 2-3 people help him, and when you think about the women probably helped too, the 3 daughter-in-laws and his wife. But for all the heavy carrying and the schlepping around of everything that he needed to make the ark, it's quite a prestigious achievement that he was able to make. It really was. So again, we have the factor where mankind was born intelligent and pass that along. And imagine when you live hundreds of years. We're real happy when we live to be 70 or 80 years old and we have the knowledge that we have if we're able to retain it. And but imagine living for hundreds of years. For instance, I'm pretty good when it comes to electrical work, so I can do electrician work, I can do plumbing and pipe fitting and things like that. I'm very good out in the garden working on making gardens or planting trees and making sure that everything grows okay. But so I guess you could say I have a green thumb. But all this stuff was attained, all this knowledge was attained, in probably about the first 30 years after reaching adulthood. It added on and added on and added on to itself, and it looks like intelligence. And it is intelligence, but it's a lot of it was acquired by doing, not just having the idea that come up in my head, which some people do, and that's awesome that they do. I mean, I could do that if like with this thing I'm making, and other things that I've made. You can imagine things and make them, and like with this thing, I'm just going along as it goes. But anyway. And then I get off on this tangent, huh? All right, so let's continue here. Now there's let's frame the problem, okay? Let's look at it here, and then after we frame it, we can kind of dissect it and get into what everything means. So thousands of megalithic sites there are worldwide, okay? There are multi-ton stones, such as that big stone in Baalbek. There are precision cuts. Some of the walls on some of these structures, like in South America and even in the Middle East, they're so tight that you can't even get a piece of paper through there. And the joints are perfect all the way around. So how do you do that, huh? And then you have the astronomical alignments, like Stonehenge. There were times of the year when, if you look through a certain stone, the solstice show through. Other times the mid-year things, I can't remember the name of those. Those manifest, so you can always look at one place or another, and the sun would be perfectly lined up on that day. Let's say December 21st and and June 21st. The days of the solstice, and the other two, in the fall and the spring. It's these people built these things for those reasons, partly because they worship the sun, and because the sun had, in the eyes of early man, had a lot of power and things like that. And but so they built these things, and they were pretty precise. So how did they get the technology? Well, when it comes to the solstice and stuff like that, a lot of people can figure that stuff out real easy. I can't. Um, they can figure out, the exact hour that summer starts or winter starts and stuff like that. And I'm just good at getting the right day. But anyway, so many predate iron tools. Okay, many of these things predate iron tools. Iron is the hardest thing that we had to make tools out of, and to be able to cut rock and split rock and fashion rock. Uh, and what about wheels? Okay, we always hear about the invention of the wheel. That's what mankind was all about. The invention of the wheel showed how we were different from other animals, or from the animals, and how special we are. And that's true, we are. We were born with a mandate from Yahweh to do many things, and if we're blessed, we get to do them. If not, I don't know. Okay, so so we got iron tools, wheels, pulleys. It's amazing what you can lift if you have a series of pulleys. You can have just a pulley with the rope going up and then coming right down to pick something up, and that'll help. That'll work a lot. But if you were to put 2 or 3 pulleys in there, it decreases the work by a factor you wouldn't believe. So that it takes very little effort to lift 1,000 pounds. It's awesome the way those mechanics work. It really is. What about pulleys? Well, pulleys are a part of. I just talked about that. Never mind. And what about recorded engineering and math? Okay, it's math is a miracle in itself, because you can explain everything with math. You can communicate with math. You can judge right and wrong many times with math, and it's mathematics. And it's amazing invention that Yahweh has given to mankind. Okay, so let's ask the question: did ancient man suddenly forget advanced construction skills, or was the knowledge removed? Excuse me. Well, if you listen to the last show, I had Jonathan. We had the voice. The voice file of Jonathan Gray talking about some things that were found in coal seams in Russia. You can get the idea that before the flood, mankind was very very intelligent, very how do I go with this? He didn't live in caves or in grass huts and stuff like that. He built cities and towns and everything else. They knew how to plumb. They knew how to. I have no doubt they knew how to use electricity. Um, and the technology is breathtaking. Some of it, especially what Jonathan was talking about with that thing that was like almost like an iPad, and then it had all the recordings of one of one of Cain's direct descendants, and describing what the world was like, and how much they hated Adam, and which is sad because but you could see the break in society, kind of like we do now. Back in the 1800s, everybody either believed in Yahweh or they maybe pretended to believe just well enough to get through society. Um, and as the years have gone by, people have just kind of walked away from Yahweh, and because technology has given them something that they can see, that's tangible, that they can hold in their hands, and so mankind is definitely has walked away from Yahweh. But they always come running back when there's a natural disaster. Did you ever notice that? Uh, so so anyway, mankind did have these all these advanced construction things. And don't forget, we got the technology, a lot of it from the angels, okay? But mankind wasn't stupid, mankind. It doesn't take very much intelligence to look at the corner of your room, okay, where you have height, width, and length all come together, showing you three dimensions. And based on that, you can build things. And so now, what about forgetting advanced construction skills? Well, not all of it was forgotten because Noah built a boat, okay, and that was quite a construction job. And Ham, Shem, and Japheth all too. They contributed in building that ship, and so it wasn't all lost, but a lot of it was with the flood. It's we see things in some of the pyramids in Egypt that appear to be light bulbs. People carrying these gigantic light bulbs to bring light into the inside of the pyramid so they can work in there. What technology they use, I have no idea. But they did have technology. And what about raising all these really heavy stones? How did that get done? Was it giants that placed the stones for them, or perhaps was it some kind of energy source that had to do with sound, with vibrations? So I would say I would go more with the knowledge was removed. It was removed by the flood, and only the stuff that mankind needed to get restarted again came over, and that came over with Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and their wives, and there we have that. So yeah, check something out, folks. Okay, real quick. I want to keep an eye on how we're doing with time, and I don't want to go too far or too long, I should say. All right, let's see. Oh, half hour. Okay, all right. Okay. So let's look at the lenses. Let's establish the lenses. Now, this is not aliens from Zeta Reticuli. This whole sci-fi theme. It's not anti-science mysticism. Okay. It's a biblical worldview. It's forbidden knowledge, and we see that in Genesis 6. And if we read First Enoch, we definitely see it. And we see lost technology and spiritual rebellion. Those things always tend to go together. It seems like, anyway. It's I don't know. I think when you have everything that you want, you don't really necessarily want what a loving, caring God has to offer you. In other words, you can go to you can get sick. You go to the doctor. Your car breaks. You go to the mechanic. So we have so many ways of fixing things ourselves that we sometimes tend to include Yahweh in our plans, and I know it makes him sad. It really does, and he should be the first thing we should trust. But it is what it is, and I truly think that's. Let me give you an example. I was back in the 80s, I think. We read a book called Like a Rushing Wind. I think that was the name of the book. And it was a story about this guy that lived in Indonesia, and he had become a believer. And it kind of illustrated all the plights that they had down there. There's anti-Christian sentiment was all over the place, and um, a lot of times he was chased out of villages and stuff like that. And there's a few times when it almost seemed like he was going to get killed. It was a very interesting book, and but what was interesting about it is miracles happened in that book, what we would call miracles. Um, and people got sick and they were healed. Okay, well, that's a miracle right there. Um, but I remember one account they were talking about. They were between a river and a group of angry villagers that were trying to chase them and kill them. And so one guy out of faith just decided, "Hey, I'm going to walk across this river." Now this was during the rainy season too, when the river was very high and moving very fast, and it would not have been good to just fall in there. And so, anyways, I guess this guy decides, "Hey, I'm going to try it. They either kill me or I die doing this." So anyway, starts walking right across the top of the water. It's that was amazing. But you see, he people get miracles when there's no other thing for them. Okay, if you're living in Los Angeles and you get a bad cut on your hand, you go to the doctor. If you chop your finger off, you go to the ER. And they can, in many cases, if you still have it, they can put it back on and you can use it again. But when you have nothing, and Yahweh is the only person that you can rely on, then He is free to do what He wants to do and has to do to prove Himself. And that's like this rushing wind, the book, like a rushing wind. It showed that these people had absolutely nothing. They were poor, destitute, but they loved Yeshua, and because of that, they found favor in His eyes. And many times in the book, miracles were illustrated because, again, there was no other thing to trust. No other person to trust. Is Lord, it's kind of like Lord, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't do this. Would you help me? And I've been there before in different areas and gotten help. But when you live in a society like that, where just your testimony of being a believer can get you killed. It's many times it's comforting to know that He's standing there and ready to help whenever we need Him. So when technology fails us, when knowledge fails us, Yahweh will always come in and grab the ball and run it for a touchdown, so to speak. All right. So again, this is not the aliens from Zeta Reticuli or sci-fi doing this stuff. Okay, it's not anti-science mysticism, but it is a biblical worldview. It is forbidden knowledge, again, like in Genesis 6, and it's lost technology plus spiritual rebellion. Yeah, that's about what it takes. So let's see. Let's get some biblical foundations here now. In Genesis 6 and forbidden knowledge, Genesis 6:4. And if you don't know the scripture by now after listening to me, I don't know. It says, "There were giants in the earth in those days when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men." So let's see. The key talking point here is the sons of God. In Hebrew, that's B'nai Ha-Elohim. And elsewhere, it's used for angels. I think it's twice in Job and maybe Numbers. I can't remember. So in this event, flesh was corrupted, knowledge was corrupted, and governance was corrupted. Okay, and three things that are very, very crucial for human survival on Earth. Okay, so if we look at extra biblical support, we gotta be careful because not all of these books are kosher, so to speak. I'm convinced First Enoch is. Second and Third Enoch, I don't know. I don't even want to know what they're about, to tell you the truth. I have a well enough time reading First Enoch, but his illustrations of the technology that was given to man, that the angels taught uh, their wives, and I'm assuming they're like father-in-laws or whatever. Uh, Metallurgy, it's the making of steel and all other kind of metals, and let's see, astronomy. They taught them astronomy, but probably more of an astrology. Okay, because I don't think that they would do anything good to for mankind or the daughters of men. Let me get a sip here, okay, folks. Iced tea, best thing in the world. They taught them enchantments, how to cast spells, how to mix different roots together to get different drugs and things like that. So it was a pharmakeia sort of thing with and before the flood. Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of barking here, I think, folks. So maybe not. Okay, so enchantments and again, geometry and measurements were taught. Um, you just don't decide one day to put up a pyramid. You have to have a plan for it. You have to know geometry and you have to know how to measure and cut. Um, let's measure twice, cut once. All right. So knowledge itself wasn't evil, but the source and intent were. The angels wanted the fallen angels wanted mankind to fall, of course. There's a lot of reasons why. Because one is they were jealous because I've read things where it said that the angels thought that before the creation of mankind that they would receive the blessings of Yahweh, and more than being angels already, that's a blessing right there. But uh, they were promised. They thought they were promised basically an inheritance from Yahweh. Um, so they didn't get that. So when mankind was created, and Yahweh just started loving on mankind, the angels got jealous and they got mad. Okay, and so when they taught these things to the female the wives and their wives' families and such, they were doing it to pollute the very knowledge that Yahweh had left on the earth. They brought technology to take away faith, basically, and we see that in our own society. With computers and man, what are we looking at now? We're looking at cyborgs that are maybe a reality here pretty soon. Artificial intelligence that it's it's amazing what mankind has created, if it has been mankind or if it's not a a group of wicked beings called fallen angels. Okay, the Tower of Babel. This was a reset event, of course. Yahweh had enough, and he decided to go down and check things out. And he had heard the I imagine Nimrod and all of his high officers, and they said something akin to, "Let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach to heaven." Well, why would you want to reach to heaven, first of all, if you're going to do it? And always, there's things that Jim Wilhelmsen teaches that I still admire. And one of them is, if you're going to build a tower to take over heaven, you don't build it in a valley, you build it on a mountaintop where you're that much closer, right? But no, this is built in a valley, and it was for the reason of corrupting mankind and corrupting mankind's relationship with Yahweh. But it also involved teaching men and actually using men and as a tool to possibly create something where the angels could actually enter into heaven. So it might have been more like a Stargate or something like that. And that's not ancient technology, folks. That's very modern technology, and it's scary that they had anything to do with something like that. Um, so let's see. So they wanted to reach into heaven, not necessarily with a tall building, okay, but with something that they could do in that tall building, right? Uh, it's let's see, ancient Near East usage. So we could look at it as a gateway, a cosmic mountain, or a divine access point. Can you say portal? Because that's what it sure sounds like. They were trying to create a portal where they could get into heaven and take over Yahweh's realm. Hey, how stupid is that? The creation wants to kill the creator. It's like, no, the creator can just squash and squash him flat if he wanted to. But thanks Yahweh has a sense of mercy and sometimes a sense of humor too. So what was God's response? And he said, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. So that's quite critical if you think about it, because we're talking about ancient man, and Yahweh saying that anything that these guys try to do, they could probably do it. Uh, and I'm sure it concerned him, and because he's had a timetable all along to where he wants mankind to reach different pinnacles where mankind will grow and then slowly fade back and then grow again. And anyway, so again, they said, Yahweh said, and nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. So I don't know what would be more blasphemous than trying to build a temple to invade heaven and kill God. But it was concerning that Yahweh was concerned about it. So okay, now Yahweh didn't say they are wrong. Yahweh said they are unified and unchecked. Okay. Yes, they had a leader. His name was Nimrod, and he just, I guess, where's I going with this? Yes, they had Nimrod, and they had the ideas and everything that they wanted to implement. I don't know. I would say that Yahweh would say that what they were doing was wrong, but that they are unified and unchecked. So I don't know if you've got kids or you ever had them, but if you leave them alone for a little while, and you come back and the house is usually wrecked, and uh, then they kind of look at you like, what do we do? you know, but so mankind was kind of like that at this time. So they didn't think God was watching. They think Yahweh was watching, and that, hey, he's taking a nap, so let's try to take over before he wakes up. And that didn't work. Okay, so this implies a technological and spiritual capability beyond moral restraint. Okay, people are, I think, for most part, born with morals. In other words, um, everybody knows it's wrong to kill. Okay, everybody knows it's wrong to steal. Uh, Especially when you look at the Ten Commandments. It's not the Ten Suggestions, it's the Ten Commandments, and they're very important, and it seems like those are the things that mankind tries to corrupt over and over and over again. So although they had some idea what good and bad was, they kind of bypassed that. Okay, Yahweh calls it having a hard heart, seared heart is what he calls it, and where when a person is so wrapped up in sin that they don't even realize it anymore, and they just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. That's usually the way it happens, and that's going to happen in society pretty soon. It's happening pretty bad right now, but when Yahweh says this is enough, and he starts his return, it's going to be interesting. Okay, so what about megalithic sites and impossible engineering? Okay, shoot, let me do something real quick, folks. Okay, because I got some pictures here I want to show you. I just got to remember how to do this now. Okay, here we go. So let's go here. Window capture. Okay, and then I've got to pick where it is. It says, please pick a window. Well, I've got it right here. Why don't you suggest it and I'll do it? Oh, this is nice. Well, I'm not going to be able to show you these pictures, folks. OBS is, oh, wait a minute. I found it. All right, here we go. Here we go. Thanks, Yahweh. I really appreciate that. Okay. So there we have, it's like Stonehenge, right? Definitely Stonehenge. And some of those rocks you're able to look at the equinoxes and the solstice. Equinox is the word I was saying. Equinox is kind of like equal, so it means that the day was as long as the night. So, and that happens March 21st and October. Yeah, I think, or September. That's right, September 21st. So anyway, okay, so there we have Stonehenge, and that was one of the things that mankind happened to put together. I don't know if fallen angels are involved in this one. I really don't. Okay. And here you got the steps on the pyramid. Now imagine these, if you would, these stones being perfect, and because obviously looking at them, they've suffered the ravages of time, weather, the sun, the wind, and everything else, the rain, and but at one time they were all perfectly square, going all the way up and down. So, all right, what we got next? I have no idea what this is. I think there's an explanation down at the bottom, but looks like it says H and H, huh? But anyway, it's out here. So the first one was Stonehenge. All right, stones weighing 25 to 50 tons, transport 150 miles, aligned with solstices and lunar cycles. No written construction records. Okay, the second one, like was shown the steps, is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Over 2.3 million stone blocks, each block 2 to 80 tons. Precision, aligned to true north within 0.05 degrees. Flatness accuracy rivals the modern laser level. Okay, forbidden questions you're allowed to ask. Why do the earliest dynasties show greater engineering than the later one? That's a really interesting question. Why do the earliest dynasties? Probably because they were the ones that received the knowledge of how to make things from the fallen angels and stuff. Fallen angels weren't always around. After a while, they were kind of cast into dark prisons and to be held there until their judgment. But so this would be closer to the time when those beings were teaching mankind how to do what they're doing. So, okay, what's Puma Punku? I think that's the H and H. Andes Mountains, 12,800 feet elevation. Let's see if we get it up. Okay, stone cut with right angles, interlocking grooves, and drill holes with uniform depths. That's not just something you pull out of a quarry and throw together, folks. That's precision. Okay, what's the problem? Andesite and diorite are harder than steel tools available at the time. So how did they cut them? Well, there's lots of ways, I guess. There's you could probably use. I think in the next 30 or 40 years, they're going to realize that you can use sound for many things. For cutting, for lifting, and for a lot of different things. And of course, light. We already know that you can use the lasers to cut, and And you can magnify things by adjusting lenses so that you can see things that are far away a lot closer. Uh, so the mainstream explanation is they're lost techniques. The biblical explanation is lost knowledge. Okay, which is kind of, you know. Okay, D, Baalbek. Uh, Trilithon stones weighing 800 to 1,000 tons each. Talk about a hernia, even for a giant. Still the largest stones ever quarried. Okay, still the largest stones ever quarried. Roman engineers admitted they inherited the foundations. The foundation was from a prior civilization. Okay, spiritual note. Built at the site, later associated with Baal worship and fallen divine authority structures. So there you have it. Um, it's funny how these things, for lack of better words, evolve. I know that I did back around 2009, I think, I did a study on this thing called Rosa Mystica, and Rosa Mystica was a Catholic apparition of the Virgin Mary. Okay, and I think it was in Italy. It manifests in Italy, and like every Virgin Mary thing, it starts out with you need to worship my son. Then gradually, it's you need to worship my son and me, and then you need to worship me, and so it kind of takes over the cadence, so to speak, of who should be worshipped, and but yeah, talking about things following one another. So that was after the time of the Inquisition when what was his name? Juan Carlos, I think was the name of the guy had the vision. Oh no, I was in Mexico. I'm sorry, but so anyway, after studying Rosa Mystica, I decided I was going to study the Virgin de Guadalupe down in Mexico. And one thing I found very interesting is that first of all, it appeared as the Virgin Mary when it appeared to Juan Carlos. And but if you do some studying, you'll find out that before the conquest, before the conquistadors came and changed everything, that a female deity used to show up to the Aztecs in that same area, in the same piece of ground. The visitation would happen where a deity, a fallen angel or whatever, would appear as a woman and deceive even the Aztecs. So it like everything that happens with it seems like with Catholicism, when they spread their Catholicism, it takes on a little bit of Catholicism and a lot of the local tradition of the fallen gods and stuff that they used to worship. So okay, segment 4, astronomical alignments and spiritual technology. The sky and earth synchronization. Okay. Many sites aligned to Orion. If you've ever looked at the pyramids, the way they're set on the ground on the Earth, if you were to take that and put it up in the sky, up by Orion, the same sequence, the 1, 2, and then one of them is a little off. You'll see it almost exactly matches Orion. I don't know of anything that matches the Pleiades, but I'm sure there are. I'm not even going to try to doubt that. And then a lot of sites are aligned to solstices and equinoxes, and we talked about that earlier. Well, why does this matter? Okay, why are we even going into this today? Well, ancient belief that heaven governs earth. Okay, aligning stone equals aligning authority. Okay, so. The ancient belief is that heaven governs earth, and if you pull out your brass tacks and everything and look, that's exactly what happens anyway. because we're living in a matrix. Remember, we're not living in a very real. We're living in a pseudo reality, so to speak, that has been created because we are because mankind has fallen due to what happened to our two progenitors in Garden of Eden. But heaven has always governed Earth. It's just that Earth doesn't realize it. But the hard part or the bad part about that maybe is that uh, it's not just heaven that governs Earth. It's a lot of times it's demons and fallen angels that govern a lot of areas. One instance we could see is when Daniel was praying, and an angel finally came down and said, hey, I'm sorry I'm late, but I had to contend with the Prince of Persia, which is a demonic or fallen angelic principality. Uh, and I fought with him for a while, and then Michael kind of is fighting him now, so I can come down and give you this message. So there's an illustration there of how we are living in a matrix, and how what we do and how we do it is seems to have been choreographed by heaven, of course, and but the evil ones can get up there and try to change things, try to make things appear like God doesn't care, or try to make things appear like there is no God or something like that. So and they've been doing it for many years, and they're very good at it. Unfortunately, I hate to give them credit's due, and that's been their forte. So sacred geometry and harmonic resonance. So let's look at there's repeating ratios, the golden ratio, the pi relationships. Okay, all these little laws that all these little things that lost my train of thought there. Okay, let's move on. So let's see. So repeating ratios, the golden ratio. I don't know that much about that. I wish I did. Pi relationships. Everything in one way or another is related to pi. What's that? 3.1416. I think. Possible functions: acoustic amplification. All right, we're talking about how they moved all the stones and everything, and if it wasn't giants or Nephilim moving them, how would they move them? Well, you can use sound to move things. Even today, you can do that. I don't know if you've ever been to a really loud rock concert, but when the bass is playing and when the drums are really blasting, you can actually feel the ground moving and things like that. So it's if we can do that with simple musical instruments, then a lot of other higher creatures, higher beings can do it for other reasons. And one of those might have been moving the stones onto the pyramid, or even digging or cutting the stone that's in Baalbek. You'll think that in a few minutes in a video. But and what about energy resonance? It's interesting. If you were to take two tuning forks at the same that are exactly the same, and you strike one at one end of a church, and hold one way over at the other end of the church, and just in a very short time, the one on the other one will start making the same resonance. It'll start humming, or whatever you want to call that. Vibrating is a better term. At the same hertz that the other one is. It's so that could I have no doubt be channeled into to moving things, or even eliminating things. So and then ritual activation. Well, then there's always the spells and incantations that people get into foolishly, but they do. They get into it to, in other words, command the demons and fallen angels to do their bidding. But that never really works very well, because sooner or later, you thought you were the puppeteer, you realize you were the puppet. So it's it's not magic. It's applied metaphysical law, so to speak, when you talk about these other ways of doing things. The New Age is always talking about your vibratory level and how our, as mankind, as it is right now, our vibratory level is wrong, and we need to raise that level and go to a different vibration, uh, which is sad because it's going to change everybody's thought patterns that buy into it, and a lot of people are going to be deceived and have been already. So, okay. So what are some modern implications? Why was this knowledge buried? Well, the flood wiped it out, of course. Um, so the flood wiped out, it says, the giants, which I don't know how anybody could read First Enoch and come up with this ludicrous fallacy that the flood killed the giants. It didn't. They killed each other. And I'll reiterate the story again until people get so tired of hearing of it that they're going to look it up and see that what I'm saying is true. No, no, I'm not saying no. Enoch was alive at the time, and Enoch was kind of a go-between between heaven and earth, and the fallen angels realized that, and they realized that what they had done is wrong, and they realized that someday there was going to be retribution and that there would be a judgment, and they didn't want that. And so what they did is they talked to Enoch and said, "Hey, can you go up and talk with the God of heaven and earth and tell him we're sorry and we really don't want to, we want to serve him now. We don't want to do what we did before, and see if we can get his forgiveness." Well, he says, "No, you're not going to get my forgiveness. As a matter of fact, you're going to be judged. And the first judgment is going to be that your sons are going to kill each other by the sword." And that's basically how the giants all died. The Nephilim, they killed each other by the sword. So let's see. Infrastructure was definitely wiped out. Anything that was on the earth that looked like a house or anything like that, it's got obliterated. And in many cases buried hundreds of feet underground. And you can buy works that tell you that too. There's last name is Jochmans, Jochmans, I think. Wrote some very interesting works on it. You can look it up online. So so centralized knowledge was basically wiped out too, and which in this case was good because it's the knowledge that existed before the flood. It wasn't any knowledge that had anything to do with Yeshua or Yahweh. It's something that happened as a result. So the survivors, let's see, Ham, Japheth, and Shem, along with Noah and their wives. So they retained a lot of things that, of course, happened before the flood. And why, I don't know, why did they write a direct story about it? But anyway, I guess that's where we have Enoch. But so a lot of things were turned into myths, especially the Greeks and their mythology. My goodness, they replaced the Nephilim with the Titans and some of the freaky things that were done genetically. They called oddities that the gods had made. I'm talking about like the Cyclops, the Minotaur, and the Centaur, and stuff like that. That wicked Medusa. Okay, let's see. So they retained some fragments also of what the pre-flood world was, and I think would you want to really preserve much of that if you were in their place? It's I would think that like, man, I don't want to remember this because it caused this, and I don't want to remember that because it caused that, and so maybe that's why it says fragments, and because very few things did come over, but some of the stuff that did was not good. So knowledge was so in some way retained. Noah and his three sons brought across the flood any knowledge that they had attained by them during their lifetimes. So yeah, so there was a little normalcy that came across on the ark. So why is it being revisited now? Modern physics is rediscovering vibration, of course. Our vibratory levels, once thought to be just a new age fancy, or they're realizing that there's something to it. Frequency, my goodness. It's been discovered that frequencies, when they're applied in the right manner, can cure diseases, and they can be used to move objects of varying sizes, shapes, and weights, uh, and in unified fields. Yeah, let's see. And transhumanism echoes. You see that coming alive nowadays, and that was happening before the flood also. So Babel was trying to. The idea was to create unity without Yahweh, and and that's, I think, what Yahweh was talking about when he came down and said, anything these guys do, anything they put their mind to, they'll be able to do. So I think it was quite crafty what he did. First of all, he changes their languages so they don't understand each other. And then that basically forces people to move all over the world, not just stay in the Shinar Valley, They went all over the world, and then as a added bonus, he separated the continent, the supercontinent that was there, and turned it into seven continents that we have today. And and with some of the big continents, he even caused mountain ranges to rise up, like the Himalayas, so that it kind of it made the people on one side unfamiliar with the people on the other side, and it was quite crafty. I think Yahweh is pretty awesome with that. Okay, so let's ask the question: do you believe ancient civilization had supernatural assistance, and if so, why would God allow it? So mankind before the flood had secrets of heaven bestowed upon them by the fallen angels. It was revealed by Yahweh later that the secrets that the B'nai Elohim gave out freely weren't exactly. Let's see. He revealed that they were kind of bupkis. All the technology and stuff that he gave mankind. I mean, it worked, but it wasn't the good stuff, the good juicy stuff that Yahweh had saved. I believe that Nimrod had the help of fallen angels to build the Tower of Babel. His goal was to war with Yahweh in heaven and to take over heaven. I believe that he was an agent working for the fallen angels. It would be revealed the real warriors once the earth, heaven, and barrier have been breached. In other words, once mankind had assisted them in getting to where they wanted to go, then they would basically tell mankind, just go sit down, let us do this. Okay, Yahweh would have allowed the Babel event up to a point, partly because mankind had once again ignored his commands to fill the whole earth. It gave him an excuse to cause confusion of tongues and quash the plans of Nimrod and his overlord keepers. So let's explore some things. Did God allow free will even among the angels? Well, heck, yes, he did. Or else the B'nai Elohim would not have been able to do what they wanted to do. So, yes, he definitely did have free will. Okay, let's see. Okay, the angels are created with free will and retain that free will. Yahweh wants those who serve him to willingly serve him with freedom of choice and not through compulsion. Yeah, the angels were all created to serve Yahweh, by the way, and but at the same time they were given the right to just say no, I guess. But the benefits, the fringe benefits of being an agent of Yahweh, I can't imagine why anybody would want to change their tune, so to speak. Is modern science repeating the same mistakes? Oh, yes. It appears that modern scientists are willing making all the same mistakes that those before the deluge made, and even more. I would say even possibly even more. So interesting, huh? Okay, so I got let's see, 1 Corinthians 2 6 through 8. Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, which none of the princes of this world knew. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Knowledge without submission leads to ruin. Technology without righteousness invites judgment. The past isn't just history, it's a warning. Okay. So yeah, I got a couple of videos I want to watch, and after that, we'll wrap it up. Okay. So let me move that down there, and get rid of that now. Okay. So these are just a couple of videos showing megaliths. The first shows 5 megalith oddities, and the second one shows 10 megalith oddities. So you're going to get 15. There may be some overlapping, but let's see what we got. Okay, there you go. First one.
The rock ship of Masuda. The rock ship of Masuda, known in Japanese as Masuda no Iwafune, is a mysterious stone structure located in the village of Akusa in the Nara prefecture of Japan. This region is known for its key-shaped earth-mound monuments that date back to the period between 250 and 552 AD. However, the rock ship of Masuda stands apart in its composition and unknown construction. The rock itself is a massive block of granite, approximately 36 feet in length, 26 feet wide, and 15 feet high, weighing around 880 tons. Though its origin remains unknown, the rock ship was obviously created with a purpose in mind. The top of the stone has been flattened, and 2 square holes have been carved into it, with a ridgeline parallel to both holes. At the base of the stone, there are lattice-shaped indentations believed to be related to the methods used to flatten the stone sides. The monolith's nickname, Rock Ship, likely stems from its ship-like appearance and proximity to the now-drained Lake Masuda. The stone surface is extremely hard and difficult to carve, leading scientists to regard the Rock Ship of Masuda as a technical marvel for its age. At first glance, the giant hunk of granite does not seem out of place. Masuda has existed for over 1,000 years, and the area is dotted with different burial mounds. However, the Rock Ship of Masuda does not mark a grave. So the question remains, who built it and why? Some scholars argue that it was intended as the marker for a large burial tomb, but no tomb or bodies have ever been found. Locals claim it was used as a Buddhist shrine. This claim is impossible to prove fully, since the rock ship lacks any resemblance to other ancient shrines. Others argue that the carefully carved piece of granite was used for astronomical observation. The carved ridge runs parallel to the mountains in the area, and it lines up with sunset on the important farming day that signals the beginning of the agricultural season. A final theory is that the rock ship of Masuda was carved to honor Lake Masuda, which has since been destroyed by human development. Despite this variety of explanations, the true purpose for creating the rock ship of Masuda has been lost to history. The Forgotten Stone. Anyone making the journey to the city of Baalbek in Lebanon will find themselves face to face with monoliths of truly epic proportions. The stones of Baalbek lie scattered around the area, discarded during their journey to the Temple of Jupiter over half a mile away. Among them can be found the largest stone ever quarried by human hands in history, the Forgotten Stone. All the stones found in Baalbek are massive, but the Forgotten Stone redefines the term enormous. Found buried next to a similarly colossal monolith known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, the Forgotten Stone is 55 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 18 feet high. Since it is still partially buried, archaeologists can only estimate its weight, but the stone is believed to weigh at least 1,650 tons. Even without the stones, Baalbek would be a mysterious place. Though the Romans built the Temple of Jupiter, the foundation it sits upon is believed to be much older. Called Heliopolis by the Romans who conquered it, the land around Baalbek is believed to have been settled by the Phoenicians, who arrived in the area over 3,000 years ago. The city itself can be found in the Bible.
Hey folks, look at the images. Now you could say that, like the ones in the middle that are carrying stuff on their heads, they look human, but some of these don't look very human. They look almost like they're reptilian or something like that. So, by the authors saying, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. And the fact that the Phoenicians were the people that were supposedly around during the time that this stone was carved, it's highly suspicious that. And look, it's in Baalbek, Lebanon, and what's just south of Baalbek, Lebanon? Well, the Canaan Valley of Israel. I mean, I'm just, it's not 10 miles, but it's south, maybe about 100 miles, and it's and I have no doubt whatsoever that they were falling. Excuse me, I mean Nephilim in that area at that time. I mean they were in the east. The tribe of Dan, the northeast part of the land of Israel, and but that would have placed them kind of close to Baalbek. So anyway, let's move on here.
Bible, where it is called Balat. The biblical verses that mention the city claim that it was rebuilt by the legendary King Solomon. The origin of the foundations that lie under the Temple of Jupiter, however, remains unknown. The Romans carved the Forgotten Stone, but the reason behind its abandonment is still a mystery. The sheer size of the stone makes moving it a daunting task, even with modern equipment, and scholars continue to argue over how Roman engineers managed to move the Forgotten Stone to its final resting place. The answers may forever be lost to the sands of Baalbek. The broken menhir of Ergra. The province of Brittany in France is home to one of the most extensive Neolithic sites in the world. Lying scattered and fractured in the middle of a field lies a massive relic of the skills and determination of the people of the Stone Age, the broken menhir of Ergra. If it had remained standing, the menhir would tower above the surrounding landscape. At nearly 69 feet long, weighing around 350 tons, and crafted in 4500 BCE, the giant column is the largest example of stonework ever created by Neolithic peoples. The broken menhir is part of a site known as the Lokmariake Megaliths. The site is 1,000 years older than Stonehenge and is a humbling monument to the abilities of our ancestors. The 460-foot-long tumulus passage grave is nearly as old as the broken menhir and still holds the remains of domesticated cattle, interred forever in the earth for reasons unknown. Joining the passage is the Merchant's Table, a Stone Age tomb constructed from the ruins of the broken menhir itself. Both the tumulus passage and the Merchant's Table were finished with pieces of the broken menhir, meaning they were built after the monolith fell. But why was such a massive monument built in the first place, and why did it fall? The stones feature vague carvings of plows, but they have been so eroded that researchers cannot decipher further details. Popular theory claims the monument was torn down, perhaps by a rival tribe or a group offended by the message given by the presence of the monolith. Geologists, however, have a different theory. The mighty pillar was brought down by an earthquake, breaking it into 4 pieces as it collapsed. The Gate of the Sun. While exploring the highlands of Bolivia in the 1860s, Ephraim George Squire stumbled upon an incredible sight. Looking for Incan relics, the American diplomat and explorer found himself in the ruins of an ancient city built by a long-lost empire. Sitting at over 12,000 feet above sea level near Lake Titicaca, Tiwanaku covers nearly 1.5 square miles and is filled with the remains of ancient buildings and relics. Standing guard over the site is the most complete monument that can be found in the city, the Gate of the Sun. Nearly 10 feet tall, 13 feet wide, and weighing around 10 tons, the Gate of the Sun was carved from a single piece of stone. 48 squares are carved into the gate, each featuring an effigy. 32 of these effigies are fully human, while the other 16 have the heads of condors. They all look at the central figure, a man holding staffs representing rain and lightning. The man himself seems to represent the sun, and is likely a creator god. The purpose of the gate is unclear. Some scholars claim that it's a calendar, while others believe that it's an astronomy tool. Part of the confusion about the gate lies in where it stands. Modern research shows that the gate was probably not originally located where it is now, and was simply stood up by European explorers who found it toppled over in the 1800s. The Gate of the Sun is a mystery, but it is no more perplexing than the culture that built it. The city of Tiwanaku once held 20,000 people at its peak between 500 and 900 AD. It was part of the Tiwanaku Empire, which spanned western Bolivia from 600 to 1000 AD. Though they built large cities and crafted impressive monuments, they left no written trace of their legacy. The closest memory of the Tiwanaku Empire was held by the Incan people, who were influenced by the Tiwanakan culture and inherited many of their gods and beliefs. Spanish conquistadors were made aware of the Tiwanakan people during their conquest of the Inca. Pedro Cieza de Leon included the city of Tiwanaku in his notes on Peru, as his men hunted for the southern Incan capital. The Gate of the Sun is not the only impressive sight to be had at Tiwanaku. The city also contains the Puma Punku, the Gate of the Puma. A giant gathering place 550 feet wide and 380 feet long, Puma Punku features 65-foot wide projections in the north and south ends. Said to have been unimaginably wondrous at its peak, the Gate of the Puma contained polished metal, ornamented fabrics, and colored ceramics. It would have been filled with the wealthiest citizens of Tiwanaku, adorned in fine clothes and jewelry. The historians are firm in their belief that the people of Tiwanaku used their own abilities to build the Gate of the Sun and the Gate of the Puma. Another theory exists among the public. Due to its size and splendor, some claim that the Puma Punku and the greater city were created with the support of giants, or even extraterrestrials.
Aha!
Though this theory of extraterrestrial involvement has no more weight than similar claims made at other sites, the lack of a written legacy left by the Tiwanakan people means that any theory made about the Gate of the Sun and the city that surrounds it will only ever be precisely that, a theory. The Unfinished Obelisk. Roughly 3,400 years ago, the Kingdom of Egypt was ruled by the female pharaoh Hatshepsut. Ruling over the land of the Nile during one of its golden periods, Hatshepsut ensured that future generations would know her success by commissioning large construction projects. However, the final purpose of one of these projects remains unknown to this day, the Unfinished Obelisk. Laying incomplete in the quarries of Aswan, Egypt, the Unfinished Obelisk would have stood 137 feet tall if it had been completed. This would have made it the largest monument of its kind. Hatshepsut's monument would have towered above the other obelisks in Egypt, as it would have been 30 feet taller than any other finished obelisk. Such a large monument would likely have been used to celebrate a significant event or person. What could have inspired Hatshepsut to commission this 1,200-ton behemoth? Abandoned after its base cracked during carving, the Unfinished Obelisk lacks any of the hieroglyphs that adorn its standing siblings. Though it provides a fascinating insight into how obelisks were made, the lack of any hieroglyphic text on the monolith means that the purpose of crafting such an excessive monument has been lost to time. Some historians claim this obelisk would have joined the Lateran obelisk, the tallest Egyptian obelisk ever to be raised at the Temple of Karnak. However, the Lateran obelisk was built after Hatshepsut died, and there are no records of a prolonged work project to commemorate the temple. Claims may continue to be made, but unless new documentation is found, the inspiration behind Egypt's tallest obelisk will remain hidden from history. Are you ready to unlock the secrets of the past? Subscribe now to Dark Five's brand new Ancient Mysteries channel and embark on a journey to uncover the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring mysteries of ancient times. Leave a comment if there are any ancient mysteries you want us to explore in upcoming videos.
There you go, folks. Pretty interesting, huh? that last one was, yeah, it was weird. Um, Imagine carving all that stone and all of a sudden it cracks one day and it's no good. I don't know. That takes a lot of persistence, a lot of patience. I don't know that I could do that. But yeah, these are all things that and the one segment he said perhaps they were carried by giants. Well, yeah, I believe that. I don't believe in extraterrestrials. They were the fallen angels. Uh, so either them or the fallen angels taught mankind how to use levitation. In the way of sound waves or whatever. It's pretty interesting. It really is. But just goes to show you that they're all over the world, and when it comes to the when it comes to the pyramids all over the world, that's even more interesting because most of them kind of sit on the same ley lines, and so you have, pardon me, you have the pyramids in Egypt, and then if you come over to Central America and South America, you have the pyramids in Mexico, Teotihuacan, and things like that, and a little south of there, you have them in the Mayan territories, or foreign Mayan territories, former Mayan territories, and all around the world. I think there's even some in Cambodia, if I'm not mistaken. But it's interesting how they now whether they were done. So the question would be how how would the let's say the Egyptians did theirs first. How would they influence the Mayans and the Aztecs to do it, and then how would they in turn influence the Oceans or the Cambodians or whoever it was before then, and then India too has some similar buildings. So, do you think that some people went between the different continents and say, hey, yeah, this is how you build these? I don't think so. I think that these things were probably made at or about the time that the Earth was divided in days of Peleg. It says clearly that in the genealogy of the forefathers or the ancestors of Israel, it says that unto Eber was born a son, and his name was Peleg, and it said, and he was named that because in his days the earth was divided. Okay, so well, does that mean the earth was divided? And talking about the confusion of tongues and stuff like that at Babel, or was that a different time? But it's interesting that they're all mysterious. They're all built around the same area of the equatorial lines, and that they're always associated with foreign gods and things like that. So it remains to be seen. So there's one more video I want to watch, if that's okay with you. It's we're at 1 hour and 28 minutes, and I don't think this is very long. Let me see how long this is. Another 10 minutes. Okay. So if you don't mind, let's watch this. It's got some more, and a lot of different ones too. Okay. So let's go for it.
Carved stones older than farming, endless rows that don't lead anywhere, massive circle modern machines would struggle to move them. These are ancient megalithic structures that shouldn't exist. The Karnak stones stretch out across the land. In western France, over 3,000 tall stones are lined up in long rows that go on for miles. Most of them were put in place between 4,500 and 3,300 BCE, which makes them older than Stonehenge. Some of the stones are taller than a one-story building, others are smaller, and the spacing between them slowly changes as the rows continue. That wasn't careless work. Archaeologists believe the layout was planned very carefully. even if we no longer understand what the planning behind it actually meant. There's no giant temple or tomb at Karnak, which makes it harder to explain. It doesn't clearly mark graves, and it doesn't sit next to a major settlement. Whatever was happening here wasn't about living space. So what are the stones for then? Ceremony? Marking something? Who knows? But setting up this many stones would have taken years of work and a lot of people. Each stone had to be dug out, moved, stood upright, and secured so it wouldn't fall. So there was some sort of meaning behind these things. If you walked past Rajam El Hiri on the ground, you might not even notice it. It looks like piles of dark rock spread across an open field, but from above, it looks like Deep Space Nine crashed to the ground. The site was built around 3000 BCE using tens of thousands of stones carefully stacked without cement or glue. In the center is a large mound, which may have been added later, possibly for burial. Some of the gaps between the stones line up perfectly with the sunrise on the longest day of the year, so the layout was not random. What's missing is a nearby town. There's no sign that large numbers of people lived close enough to, conveniently build something like this. That means people traveled here, worked together, and then left when it was done. Not very practical. So whatever it was used for, it must have been very important to them. The Ganchina temples in Malta were already ancient when the pyramids were being built. They date back to 3600 to 3200 BCE, and they're some of the oldest stone buildings still standing today. People later believed that giants built them, mostly because the stones are so big, it's hard to imagine normal people moving them. Some of the blocks weigh over 50 tons, yet they were lifted and placed without metal tools or wheels. The builders shaped the stones so they fit together tightly, creating thick walls and rooms that have survived for thousands of years. The layout is carefully planned. The temples have rounded rooms connected by narrow walkways, and archaeologists found animal bones and carved figures inside. These likely were not homes. They were built for special events. Seems like rituals may have taken place here. Whatever methods they used to build them, though, they clearly worked, even without the tools that you'd expect to need to create a place like this. From the outside, Bernanès looks like a long, low hill sitting near the coast of Brittany, but this hill was actually constructed, and a very long time ago, around 4500 BCE. That makes it older than Stonehenge and also older than the pyramids. It's one of the earliest large stone monuments ever discovered in Europe. Inside, it's packed with stone passageways and burial chambers. There are 11 separate chambers, all built using stacked stone, and the entire thing stretches over 230 feet long. To build it, people moved and stacked thousands of tons of rock, shaping a massive monument without cement or metal tools. Some of the stones inside are carved with simple symbols as well, so this wasn't just a pile of rocks thrown together. There was some sort of meaning behind it. Archaeologists believe it was used as a burial site for important people, possibly over many generations. It's amazing something like this still exists, though. At the time, people were still figuring out farming, yet here they were, organizing large groups to build something that's still standing to this day. And in the same part of the world, we also have Gavrinus, which sits on a small island off the coast of Brittany. It dates back to around 4200 BCE. From the outside, it looks like a grassy mound. Inside, it's something else entirely. I mean, look at these carvings. It's beautiful. It's a long stone passage that leads to a central chamber, and almost every stone along the way is covered in these carvings. There are spirals and zigzags and other repeated patterns that show up at other sites from the same time. Some of the stones used here were clearly taken from older monuments, which means people were reusing pieces that already held meaning. The passage lines up with the rising sun at certain times of the year, allowing light to travel straight into the chamber. Gavrinus wasn't a place people lived, though. It was sealed most of the time, probably only open for specific events, which just makes all the effort they put into decorating these stones even more impressive. And now we head to Spain with the Dolmen of Menga, built around 3750 BCE. It's a long stone chamber with a short passage leading inside, but the size of the stones, some of the roof slabs weigh close to 180 tons. making them some of the heaviest stones ever used in an ancient construction like this. Instead of pointing toward the sun or stars like many other sites though, Menga is aligned toward a nearby mountain, which feels deliberate, must have had some sort of spiritual meaning. Inside the chamber, the space is wide and tall, almost cave-like. The stones are so heavy that builders had to add supporting pillars inside just to keep the roof from collapsing. This Sora sits in northern Morocco. It doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves. It's a large stone circle made up of around 167 standing stones, surrounding a central mound of earth. The site dates between the 4th and 3rd century BCE, so it's younger than most of the other sites on the list, but still impressive in scale. One of the stones stands over 16 feet tall, much taller than the rest. Definitely feels like it was meant to be the main marker. The stones are spaced in a way that clearly defines an inside and an outside. As for what the inside was for, we don't really know. Very little digging has been done here, so most of what we have are guesses. What we do know is whoever built it put in a huge amount of effort. Near the ancient Roman ruins at Baalbek in Lebanon, there's a quarry with stone blocks. Some of these things weigh over 1,000 tons. One unfinished block is estimated at around 1,650 tons, making it one of the largest stones ever cut by humans. These blocks were meant to be used in the massive temple complex right next to the quarry, and some of the slightly smaller stones from the same area were actually moved and built into the temple walls. Cutting stones that big is already difficult, but moving them, that's on a completely different level. Even with modern equipment, lifting and transporting something that heavy would not be simple. Yet some of the stones were clearly intended to be moved, and these things are clean and straight. They clearly knew what they were doing. What nobody knows for sure is why they stopped. Maybe the project got scrapped, or maybe they finally hit a limit. These things were just too heavy and had to be left behind. This next site is even older, and by a lot. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey was built around 9600 BCE. Farming hadn't started yet. Villages just weren't really a thing, and yet somehow people came together to build this massive stone site on top of a hill. The builders cut huge stone pillars straight out of the ground, some weighing as much as a large truck, then dragged them into place. And Stonehenge didn't start as the stone circle people picture today. The first work there began around 3000 BCE, and changes kept happening for hundreds of years. That means generation after generation kept coming back to the same spot, even though they had no written language to pass instructions down. The largest stones weigh about 25 tons, and they were dragged from miles away. Some of the smaller stones came from Wales, which is over 150 miles from the site. Moving them would have taken serious planning and cooperation, especially without metal tools or wheels. The stones are lined up with the sun in a very specific way. On the longest and shortest days of the year, the sun rises or sets right where the stones are pointing. That kind of accuracy doesn't happen by accident, of course. Clearly, they were paying close attention to the sky over long periods of time. Stonehenge also wasn't alone. The land around it is full of burial mounds and pathways, so this area was important long before the stones came to be. Nobody knows exactly what Stonehenge was for, but it clearly mattered enough for people to keep working on it for hundreds and hundreds of years. That has been the video for today. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, next time.
Pretty interesting stuff, huh, folks? Pretty interesting. You know what? One whole thing I forgot about, and I was looking it up while we were watching the movie or video. The serpent mounds in the Midwest. I want to look at those real quick, okay? And just bear with me because all I've got to do is hit. Okay, why didn't it happen? Hold on a sec, folks. If anything bad can happen, it will. Okay, let's see. There. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me just do a little bit of this. A little bit of that. And we do this. Okay. So, In Central America, Central United States, I should say, there's something called the Serpent Mounds, and they're uh, supposed to be burial mounds. Although some of them have been dug into, and giant skeletons have been found in there. Since then, it's become illegal to dig into these things, probably because you'll find more giants, and it'll prove the Bible yet again. Um, so anyway, let's see here. So we got this one here. Where's this at? Okay, let's see here. Have you ever wondered about the ancient secrets buried beneath the Midwest rolling hills? The hidden burial mounds scattered across this region hold stories of civilizations long gone. These mounds, built by Native American cultures, offer a glimpse into their rich history and traditions. From Ohio's famous Serpent Mound to the uh, Cahokia Mounds in Illinois, each state has its unique feature and mysteries. Imagine walking through these ancient landscapes, feeling the connection to those who lived here centuries ago. I don't think so. Whether you're a history buff or just curious about these burial mounds, can be a fascinating journey in the past. Okay, so let's see. So let's see, Effigy Mounds, National Monument. I didn't miss anything. Okay. Effigy Mounds National Monument in Iowa showcases mounds shaped like animals. These earthworks created by the effigy mountain builders, built by the effigy mountain. Sorry, I got off that. Okay, date back to over 1,000 years. So let's see, there's three of them. The Great Bear Mound, the mound shaped like a bear, stands as one of the largest and most impressive effigies. Marching Bear Group, a series of bear-shaped mounds that seem to march across the landscape. And Little Bear Mound, smaller but equally intriguing. The mound adds to the site's rich history. Then Cahokia Mound, state, hope I said that right, state historic site. Cahokia Mounds in Illinois represent the largest pre-Columbian settlement north of Mexico. This UNESCO World Heritage Site features numerous mounds. Oh, geez, they gave it to the UN. Oh, well. Number 4, Monk's Mound, the largest mound in Cahokia, towering over 100 feet, served as a central burial hub of the city. Mound 72, a burial mound where archaeologists found remains of elite individuals and sacrificial victims. And number 6, Woodhenge, not a mound, but a circle of wooden posts, believed to be an ancient calendar. Okay. And we'll go to Spirit Mound. Spirit Mound is in Ohio, was one of the most famous effigy mounds. The snake-shaped mound stretches over 1,300 feet. So, 60. Number 7, Serpent's Head. The head of the serpent possibly representing a snake swallowing an egg. Number 8, Coils of the Serpent. The winding body of the serpent with intricate curves and turns. Number 9, Tail of the Serpent. The tail ending in a triple coil adds to the mound's mystery. Okay, and then we got the Hopewell Culture National Historic Park. Let's see, Historic Park in Ohio preserves the earthworks of the Hopewell people. These mounds reflect their complex society. So we got 10 through 12. 10 is the Mound City Group, a collection of mounds used for ceremonial purposes and burials. The site earthworks, large geometric earthworks, including a massive mound. And the Hopewell Mound Group, the largest concentration of Hopewell mounds showcasing their engineering skill. Atlan, this is interesting because it usually has something to do with Mexican Indians, but I guess maybe not in this case. Atlan State Park is in Wisconsin. featuring mounds built by the Mississippian culture. The site offers a glimpse of their way of life. So you have three there. The pyramidal mounds. These mounds, top mounds, served as a platform for buildings. The crescent mounds, a unique crescent-shaped mound, possibly for use for ceremonies. And the stockade remains of a wooden stockade that once surrounded the village. Okay, effigy mounds in Wisconsin. Getting kind of close to the end, folks, so just bear with me. Wisconsin is the home of numerous effigy mounds created in various North American cultures. These mounds often depict animals and other shapes. So the first one's a man lizard, or excuse me, a man mound. The only surviving anthropomorphic effigy found in North America. The lizard mound, shaped like a lizard, this mound is part of a larger group of effigies. And the twin mounds side by side, representing a pair of animals or spirits. Okay. All right. Well, that's basically it. So anyway, you have these incredibly mysterious mounds in Central America, and like I said, they in some cases they've dug into them and found giant skeletons. So whether this was to revere the giants or to maybe since they all have something to do with serpents, so to speak, they maybe the Indians, or excuse me, the Native Americans associated Satan with the with the Nephilim, and thus made burial mounds for them to show their true identity. So anyway, let's see here. There we go. All right, folks. Well, it's been a very interesting hour and 47 minutes. For me, it has anyway. I hope it has been for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that maybe it answered some of your questions. I know it answered some of mine when I first started watching it. And I'm going to sign off. We'll be back Thursday or Friday with another show. Again, I'm doing these during the day and uploading them at night. So there is no chat window or anything like that we can do at this time. So hopefully that'll change. I'm hoping that things will get better. Now I'll be able to do live shows again. Wouldn't that be nice? So, all right, folks, I'm going to get out of here. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May He make His face to rise upon you, be gracious unto you. May what you're going out and you're coming in, you're rising up and you're lying down. May He bring you the peace that passes all understanding. And may you just walk in the perfect light of Yeshua, and be blessed in perpetuity. Amen. All right, folks. See you later. Bye.